Okay, so today we are going to be ranking every single godforsaken drop location in this game. That means we're going back to Kings Canyon Season 0 to look at some of the areas that you guys may have forgot even existed at one point, right? So I think we'll just have to start by like going down the list of all the places and stuff, right? Slum Lakes. This is Slum Lakes, guys. You guys remember this area? It looks like this. Slum Lakes was an okay drop spot. Like a lot of nostalgia. Some people really like Slum Lakes. I don't remember loving Slum Lakes. I actually found like fighting in there kind of annoying. I mean, the loot pool wasn't phenomenal. Nobody ever really dropped there because it's on the edge. Slum Lakes is probably like C tier, like a C tier drop spot. The Pit, on the other hand, the Pit also has like pretty mediocre loot. Yeah. You'll be lucky if you can find armor and stuff, man. It's a cool designed looking place and it's still there to this day, but I don't know why it's considered a marked location while other places aren't. It's gotten a lot better over the years because they added those areas around Spotted Lake around it. And it's definitely a good rotation spot, but geez, there's no reason to land here at the Pit, man. I'm gonna put it in D tier. The Pit's a D tier landing spot, and you can't change my mind otherwise. Runoff. Oh yeah, so Runoff has like the really cool towers that used to be a part of like Waterworks, or like, is it like Wet Station? I forget what it was called, dude. Runoff had these really cool zip lines, and it still has it, like the cool zip lines. I like fighting on top of the buildings. I like fighting around the buildings. The loot pool here is not too bad. They did add that ultimate station that lets you charge your ultimate and get your ult on the spot. Yeah, I would have to give Runoff like a high C tier, dude. I think a high C tier is fair for Runoff. Airbase now. Airbase is actually, I have so many fond memories of Airbase because at least Airbase is very different in style. It still exists and it's one of the more open places to fight in Kings Canyon. Airbase is definitely a wild card drop spot, right? Airbase straight up didn't have to be so open. They could probably have added more cover and stuff, but that's what makes it kind of fun. Like the fact that you could zip across the two pads, this big tower area that you can fight on up here. The buildings are pretty okay. Loot pool's actually pretty high tier loot for the most part. It's honestly not my favorite, but I would probably give it like B tier. I think B tier for Airbase. Yeah, I think it's one of the more fun and more dynamic and more unique looking drop locations, especially on Kings Canyon. So I'm not going to complain about it. Okay. Well, we can't continue this without talking about Skulltown, right? Y'all knew it was coming. God, Skulltown. Okay, let me explain why people love Skulltown. One, it was decently centralized, so people would always drop there. So you'd have like 50,000 people dropping there. Its design was sick. You have the full-on skeleton around the town. Like that was always, in my opinion, such a really cool design. So you can fight on the skeletons, you can fight on the rocks, you can fight on the buildings. There was a decent amount of verticality. Let's be honest, the loot pool wasn't phenomenal, but the memories make up for the bad loot pool. Skulltown Road was made for a banger. You know, I made Skulltown Road for a reason, right, guys? I'm gonna take my clones to Skulltown Road. That vibe, that was literally because of Skulltown, man. I'm gonna give it S tier. I think Skulltown is a solid S tier. Is it S plus? I don't think so. I think people have a little bit of nostalgia goggles on when they think about Skulltown. It's sad that it's gone, but never forgotten. S tier is fair. S tier is definitely fair, dude. The Thunderdome. Dropping here early game was always a vibe, dude, because like it was just such a solid area. Loop wise, it was always really good. Cover wise, not so much. If you landed in that box on the top, you were kind of like in a strong position, especially if you had like a sniper up there. But if you had like no guns and you landed in the box, everyone else is gonna kill you. I like Thunderdome. I always wish there was like more buildings around Thunderdome. Like there's no doors in Thunderdome. Like you're gonna basically fight. You're not gonna be able to hold doors and heal behind it. I wish there was just a little bit more going for it. So I'm gonna give Thunderdome A tier. I think solidly an A tier. I think it's just a very unique and very iconic area. I think A tier is fair. Bunker boys, bunker party, bunker boys, bunker party. Okay, so let's be real with each other for a second. Let's talk for a second here, guys. The bunker is a mediocre landing spot. Let's just be honest with ourselves. The loot there is catastrophically bad. There's only two entrances, so one team lands on the other side, one team lands on the other side, and you end up fighting those teams. Enemy teams will land on the bins outside. Like the loot inside is decent, but I always wish that there was more ways to get into the bunker. I do enjoy the bunker. If you're a Caustic main, you know exactly why. But come on, let's be real with ourselves. It's not that good of a landing spot. And I do have a personal bias and love towards the bunker because come on, we're the bunker boys. So I'm gonna give it B tier for bunker, dude. I'm about to get a bunch of hate in the chat from my own fans. They're like, I can't believe you've done this. Market. It's actually insane how long Market has withstood the test of time, man. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Market sucks. Like, it's fun to fight in. I do respect that its layout is super duper duper unique. I feel like everyone lands here and I'm like, why? Why is everyone landing here? It's not that good of loot. Like, Market's one of those places that like keep keep it as it is, but add more stuff around it or on top of it. Like expand the market. Let this become a full-on mall, you know? Not a big fan of market as much as I used to be. I'm gonna put this in like high C tier, like C plus or low B, around there. Artillery used to be one of my favorite locations when Apex first dropped and stuff. I do think Artillery is a solid spot. It is just worse refinery though. I'm so glad it's been blown up to make it a lot more fun. I did find fighting here pretty cool because you can land on one building, like one team would land in one building and then the other team would land in the other building. Yeah, I mean, not much to say about it. It's been blown up now. I do think refineries just does the job better. I would probably put it in B tier. You know, it could be better. Cascades, dude. Cascades used to be such a fun area to fight in. I will give it minus points because one, its replacement is significantly better, which is containment. Two, the buildings are all like the same looking, so there's not really anything specifically unique about this drop location. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't remember it. It was gone within like the second season. It was only there for one season. A lot of people really did enjoy the fights there. I personally thought it was meh. Cascades is like C tier. I think people overhype it. I think people give it too much credit. Now, bridges, on the other hand, I like bridges. I love there's just two big old bridges. The verticality was insane. The zips everywhere were super cool. Don't get me wrong, like the buildings weren't necessarily unique, but these bridges were hella unique. I feel like the fights here were super cool. It gave you like a decent amount of cover too, because like I feel like modern Kings Canyon has a lot of verticality with very little cover. But man, this POI was sick. I'm gonna give this one A tier. I do miss this one. A tier for comeback. Water treatment. All the homies remember water treatment. Oh my god. This is what it looked like. It had like these cesspools of greenery. I actually really like this area. Don't get me wrong, the buildings are very similar to Runoff, but the actual like other parts were super unique. The zones would end here a lot and it was made for very awesome endgame fights. I do miss water treatment to an extent. It was definitely a fun area to drop at. I give it like A minus, high B. I think it's a fair assumption. Oh, relay. Oh my god, I forgot about relay. A lot of people forget about relay, man. Relay really had the downside of being at the edge of the map in the corner opposite of Skulltown, so landing there in pubs was like pointless unless you didn't want to fight anybody. But fighting here was definitely fun. It had some dynamic parts to it. The fact that you could fall off the cliffs was kind of wild. I see why people didn't want to land there, and it was kind of like underwhelming of a spot in terms of loot and the variety of the buildings and stuff. Relay is like a high C tier, like C plus. But Wetlands, on the other hand, Wetlands had like these buildings that were all like the same looking. Yeah, it had its own little satellite tower in the back. I don't have many fond memories on Wetlands. I'm kind of glad it's gone now. It's been replaced by Capacitor, which is like significantly better. I have nothing else to say about Wetlands, man. It's not really a special area. It's not bad. It's not great. Like C plus as well for this one, for Wetlands. Swamps. It's over here, I promise. You can see it, right? It's right there. Wow, it's so sad. I can't even zoom in on it. I always thought Swamps is a really cool place to fight in. I think like the trees make up a lot of cover. It feels like a very common end zone. People do end up dropping here because it's safe, because not many people do drop in Swamps. Swamps is huge. It's like one of the biggest POIs. I love its aesthetic. I like the buildings that you fight in Swamps. Honestly, I'm gonna give Swamps like a high B tier, like B plus. Then we got Hydro Dam. Hydro Dam has these really cool bridges with these very unique buildings, a decent amount of verticality. There's like this whole bunker area inside. The bottom area is kind of cool. There's like a zip to the top. Buildings are pretty unique looking. It's definitely a pretty solid place to fight in. I think it has a very unique layout. Honestly, I think Hydro Dam deserves A tier. A tier for Dam, you know? Me and my homies like Hydro Dam, you know? But now let's talk about Repulsor. Repulsor. Yeah, and that's the last one in OG Kings Canyon. Then we'll move up to the more modern Kings Canyon. Okay, so Repulsor is really cool. Before there was this huge satellite thing, but it broke and became like a separate little thing. Repulsor is better artillery. Let's be real with ourselves. I love these two buildings that you'd fight in, and the underground area at the bottom of Repulsor is always really fun to fight in. Here's the tower being broken because of crypto. So in the lore, like it has like a little bit of a cool style to it. Yeah, Repulsor's sick. Repulsor's honestly like an A tier, high A tier, like A plus. But now let's find ourselves a Kings Canyon season 8 is when they last touched it. Wow. Look how much has changed, chat. Let's start with Crash Site. The Crash Site was the newest addition to this whole thing. Crash Site is so dope, guys. Crash Site extended Kings Canyon upwards. Like artillery was here. Artillery used to be the top of the map, but it extended an entire extra area. So it's a brand new area and I freaking love it. I think Crash Site is one of the most amazing areas to fight in. It saves Kings Canyon for me. Like this side of the map is the best part of Kings Canyon. I'm a big fan of Crash Site. And honestly, I'm gonna say S tier. Like straight up. I think S tier is definitely not a terrible decision for this one. Crash Site basically healed Kings Canyon. Exactly. Then we got Spotted Lake, if you guys see over here. So Spotted Lake is what replaced Slum Lakes. But Spotted Lake, I think, is significantly better. For starters, you have these like really cool sniper towers. You have this big old water area that you can fight in. It's like in the open. If you go a little bit deeper, you get this whole area. The dam is really cool to fight in. You can fight inside the dam. These buildings are cool. They're very similar to the ones at Crash Site, which is why I like them. I like how they work, but they have their own unique buildings, which is the building on the right here and the building on the left over here. Those buildings are super fun to fight in. I think it's a very well-made map. The loot is incredible. I really like it. I'm gonna give Spotted Lake like a A tier. I think Spotted Lake is a big improvement on Slum Lake, so A tier I think is fair. Containment's what replaced Cascades. I'm glad it did. Oh yeah, Containment's great. It has the flyers inside the cages, the cool buildings with like its own little verticality. Like these buildings are super fun to fight in. The loot's pretty decent. It's always very hot in terms of like the amount of people fighting in it at the same time. I like the way the zip lines are laid out so you can zip like everywhere and stuff. It's not the best area. Like I do think it's a little annoying sometimes because I feel like you're always fighting here and you're gonna get third party here left and right. I would give it like A tier. I think A tier is fair for Containment. We have Broken Relay. So Relay still exists, but it's just broken. You have my thoughts on Relay. It's kind of a better version of Relay. Whatever I said about Relay, just give it a little bit of a boost. Let's talk about something actually new, which is the rig. The rig is great. I love fighting here. There's like the old station in the middle of it. The layout is super unique. That central area is such a fun area to fight in because you can zip up and zip around. There's also that height up here that you can get to with a jump pad or a good zip line. There's a bridge towards Broken Relay. It takes you to Capacitor. You can go this way towards Swamps. It just sucks that it's in the corner, so you're not going to find that many fights early on unless it's like the first place that people drop. But yeah, S tier. S tier for dope. It's dope. Then we got Capacitor. Capacitor is crazy. You got yourself multiple ultimate stations, so you're going to find people like landing with their ultimate essentially. So that's already kind of like a chaotic part about it. I always love that it's like this big wall, so unless you're like in either this back area or this front area or this side area, there's really only 3 ways to get in. You can't really get in this way, and the only other entrance is through labs. I think fighting here is super fun. I like the way the piping and stuff works. It's like really cool. So I'm gonna give it S tier. I think Capacitor is a welcome addition to Kings Canyon. It's great. I love everything about it. Solid S tier for sure, my dude. Okay, we got a couple. We got 2 new ones over here. New in the sense that they're not the original ones. Let's start with the cage. The cage, man. The cage came in season 2. It's a pretty hype spot to fight in. Like the verticality is insane. It is the highest point on Kings Canyon in general. You can see like the whole world. It's crazy. Do I love it though? I feel like the loot could be better, but I do think it's a really unique and cool layout. So I got to give them props on that. I would say B tier, like low B tier. It is at this point a very iconic spot in Kings Canyon. So I'm not going to say like get rid of it and stuff. Like if anything, work around it. Like I'm telling you, if they just extended the walls around the cage so it became like this big fortress, it'd be such a fun area to fight in because then you'd have options besides this middle tower in terms of cover and ways to push into it and stuff. Labs. Me and my homies love the lab. The lab is sick. You guys remember when it first came, they didn't have that door on the side. I'm so glad that they added the door recently that takes you to Capacitor. But when it first came, you would drop into the portal. You would fight like 80,000 people in the labs. It was intense. It was crazy. It's still here to this day. I think it's one of the more fun areas to fight in. The one thing they could do to fix it, in my opinion, is to add like a sky hole. Yes, we love holes. So that there's another option into it. The thing that sucks about Kings Canyon these days is sometimes the ring ends like in labs. So some people are in the lab and some people are outside the lab, like on top of it, and so you can't really fight each other because the rings close and stuff, and it's really annoying. But yeah, I think labs is freaking dope. I would give it A tier. I like labs. Some people are gonna probably disagree with me there, but I really do like labs. Oh, here we go, guys. We got the gauntlet. Oh man, we need to talk about this. All my homies love the gauntlet. The gauntlet is sick. The jump pads everywhere. The buildings are unique. The color scheme is cool. It's just Octane's playground. The fights here are always crazy. If it's like one of the first drop spots, everybody and their mother's dropping here. The loot's not incredible, but I don't care. The fire ring has always a guaranteed purple or gold thing. You have a million ways in and out of the gauntlet. It's an open area. It's crazy. You know what? Do you guys hear that? Do you guys hear that noise? From the heavens. S plus. The gauntlet is our first S plus area. It is so cool. It's here to stay. Thank you so much, the gauntlet, for existing and being amazing, you know? Let's talk about salvage, guys. Salvage. What can I say about salvage, man? Salvage got rid of Skull Town, so obviously I'm pissed about it. I wish there was more ways to get onto that skull. I hate that there's only a zip and maybe you can like balloon onto the skull. I have a really cool idea to fix this area. You take the skulls that's already here and you create this beautiful natural history museum that showcases the skull on top of it. And it's like Watson's museum. So it's like Watson's town takeover. I think that'd be a really cool replacement for salvage, or even an extension to salvage. It doesn't have to replace salvage. I don't like salvage that much. It has a cool higher areas. The buildings are fine. The bridges are cool. It's just not a solid replacement for Skull Town, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, C tier. I don't like salvage that much, man. Cosmic treatment's cool. The back area is actually my favorite part about it. Like this back area. The actual interior building is a little chaotic at times, but it is a unique building. I wish there was more going on with these little tube areas on the outskirts. I don't know, man. I feel like cosmic treatment could have been so much bigger and better, but like compared to all the other town takeovers, it's a little bit mediocre. So I would probably give it like C+. I know like internally there's some really good loot, like some very, very high tier loot in there, but the fights aren't that fun or as dynamic as they could have been if there was maybe more buildings to work around and stuff. And last but not least, I don't know why it's not marked here, but this is Crypto's town takeover. Map room is so dope. Map room has so much going for it. It's a very unique building. It has decent loot everywhere, like in terms of like where you can land. There's multiple spots you can land underneath it. When you're actually in the map room, you can scan and find out where like enemies are. So it's actually a pretty amazing like beacon area. But overall, I think this was one of the coolest takeovers. It took over an area that nobody really cared about. It was like that gas station area. Honestly, S tier. This is an S tier plate. I like landing here a lot. So haters gonna hate, man. And potatoes gonna potate. You feel me? I think that's all of Kings Canyon. We're on World's Edge now, baby. Okay, let's start with Skyhook. Okay, so Skyhook is honestly one of the best areas in the entire map. It has remained relatively untouched as well. The buildings are all very cool. The Skyhook building is super unique and interesting. You could have like 6, 7 different teams landing here and they all can have their own loot. I think Skyhook is one of the best spots on World's Edge, and it definitely feels a bit underrated at times. So I'd probably give it S tier. I think S tier is fair for Skyhook. S for Skyhook. Refinery. You guys remember Refinery, dude? Oh my God, it's been so long. Refinery was just like a small sorting factory. This building was really cool. The loot wasn't phenomenal, but like the little toilet, I call them like the toilet bowls. Those had really good loot. You could land like 3 or 4 teams here. It was on the edge of the map, so people probably didn't like love going there, but definitely a pretty solid spot. I don't think there's anything super unique or special to say about Refinery. I do think it is sorting factory's little brother. For that reason, I'd probably put it in B tier. B tier is fair for a Refinery, I think. Epicenter. All my homies want to talk about Epicenter. So Epicenter is obviously like one of the hearts of World's Edge. It's this big ice structure. It's crazy. Fighting on the icicles is crazy. Fighting inside the actual building is weird. I feel like you have to rotate through here a lot from the outskirts. So you do fight here a lot, but landing here is not my favorite thing to do. And especially now that they added like the lava around it, it makes it even cooler because it has like a little bit extra buildings and stuff. I would give Refinery like a B, like a solid B tier. It's not bad at all by any means. It's definitely an iconic part of World's Edge. Let's get Overlook out of the way before we overlook it. See what I did there before we overlook it? No, I'll screw you too, bro. So I think Overlook in general is pretty mediocre for a reason. It doesn't have the best loot. The layout is pretty meh. I always wish they got rid of it and added a new POI, but at least they added that new tunnel on the side of it. I don't know. Overlook is overlooked for a reason. I'm gonna have to give it a C tier straight up. I don't even want to talk about it. That's how much I want to overlook this map. A little cringe, my guy. Talk about Drill Site. You guys remember Drill Site? Holy Lord, it's been so long. Dude, Drill Site had that like big tower thing, these generic looking buildings. Drill Site is the most forgettable thing because it has not a single unique building to its name. Its replacement is so much better. Honestly, this Drill Site might be the first D tier. D tier for Drill Site. It's so forgettable. I forgot it existed. But let's talk about Lava Fissure next. Lava Fissure is way different than Drill Site because it's very unique. Lava Fissure has some really cool layout. The bridges all over the lava with the circular buildings and the buildings on the outskirts of it with the rocks. It's a cool place to fight in. It's on the edge, so it's not going to be the most hot spot, but I'm going to give this one B tier. It's not bad. Now, Train Yard on the other hand, I used to hate Train Yard, bro. All my homies hate Train Yard, dude. Train Yard is a very unique POI, and I'm going to give it that. It's not going to be low tier for that reason. It is missed to an extent, but it was so central, and the rings would end here so consistently, and you'd have these people in the carts on the top, people in the carts over there. There's no doors, so there's no way to really play defensively here. People would be coming in from every direction. I'd feel like I'd get sniped from people on the top. I don't got much love for that, for the verticality of Train Yard, man. I'm glad it's gone. It was a fun hot drop. It was fun in pubs, but in ranked, it was annoying. C tier. Train Yard's a C tier, man. C for, come on, put some doors. Okay, now we're getting to the more hotly debated topics. Capital City, what is there to say? Look at that. It was this huge city. There was no big rift in between them separating Fragment East and Fragment West. It was the hottest spot. There's this bigger parking structure in the streamer building back there. All these buildings were crazy. Like, Like, Capital City is such an iconic place for a reason. It was the newest Skull Town, and it had to go for that same reason because everybody and their mother was dropping there, which is why they had to destroy it. They had to do something about it. S tier. Capital City's awesome. It's an S tier landing spot. Then we move on to Fuel Depot. Oh my god. I think Harvester is way cooler than Fuel Depot. It just has these very generic looking buildings. I don't know why it's a named location. It feels like such a transitional area, you know what I mean? It's pretty damn forgettable. So like low C tier. Nothing good to say about that. The Geyser. The Geyser never going nowhere. I love the Geyser. I think it's one of the coolest spots. I love how green and yellow, the vibrancy, the colors are crazy. The buildings are they wrap around like a snake, but you can also fight inside of it and around it, on top of it. The building in the back's pretty cool. I honestly do really love the Geyser. I do wish it was not so on the edge. You know what? I don't care what you guys say. S tier. I think Geyser's S tier. Anyone that thinks otherwise is a hater. It has a lot going for it. Y'all just haters, okay? Thermal stations still exist too, huh? The middle building is pretty cool. It does cause some crazy dynamic fights on top of it as well. You can fight on top of it. There's also loot that spawns on top of it. There's these other side buildings and the railings everywhere, the lava everywhere. It's a unique area, but it's not my favorite to land on. I hate how little cover there is when you're trying to get out of that central building. It's not a well-made POI, as unique as it is. So I'm gonna give it C+. Like, it's C+, whatever, dude. I don't care what you say. El Arbol. Let's talk about the tree first before we get to the goat over here. The big old leaf thing, dude. I don't love the tree. I like landing here in ranked because no one wants to land here. Its layout has some unique spots that are cool to fight in the end game, but in general, it's not my favorite POI, and if it went away, I wouldn't be too upset. I'd probably give the tree like a low B. I think that's fair for the tree. Now let's talk about Sorting Factory. I miss you, Sorting Factory. This is Refinery's older brother. It is the better refinery. It has these awesome buildings. It has this big old wraparound building. It has this big building, the toilet bowl. I think it was better than Capital City, honestly. There was just a bunch of different areas you can fight in. The railing was really cool. I think it was honestly a mistake for them to get rid of it because the current POI that's on it, it's good, but like this is so much better. I'm gonna have to give Sorting Factory. Do you hear that? The angels? S+. Yeah, I said it. We got Lava City. Lava City still exists, right? Lava City has a really cool layout of buildings. I like the lava. I think it's a pretty hot spot. I love that all the buildings are connected by bridges, which is like one of the cooler parts about it. Like these 3 buildings here connected by bridges. Overall, I do think Lava City is definitely an underrated spot. I think more people should respect it, should put some respect on its name, you know? It's not the greatest location. A tier. A tier for lava. Last, but certainly not least, in the original Kings Canyon, the Dome. The Dome has a syndrome of being so far away from everything else. Everyone just forgets it exists. And it kind of breaks my heart because I think the Dome is one of the better spots in Apex. It has a cool layout. It has a really dynamic structural feature, which is the huge like lava dome thing. It has decent loot. I do like fighting in the Dome. So I'll probably give Dome B tier. Yeah, that's about it. Now we got to get to Season 11 World's Edge because there is a bunch of things that they changed. Okay, so we got a couple things going on right now. First, we got Trials. I feel like a lot of y'all forgot that Trials even exists. The loot here is not the greatest, and having to fight Prowlers for it is not that great. It was hype the first time, but after the second or third time, you're like, dude, I don't want to keep fighting Prowlers, dude. It got old real quick, and a lot of people don't like dropping there because you're making a bajillion noise, and you're wasting all your ammo just to kill some Prowlers and stuff. I'm gonna put it in B tier for Bloodhound. It's very unique, so that's why it's in B tier, not in lower. Half of y'all forgot that it even exists, right? Let's be honest. But none of you forgot that Countdown exists. Countdown replaced Drill Site. Man, Drill Site sucked, but Countdown? Look at that, dude. The layout is so cool. The buildings are dynamic. The Hammond Laboratory buildings are super dynamic. The symmetry is really cool. This would be a really good arenas map in my opinion. I'm surprised they haven't made it an arenas map. The loot here is really solid. Countdown was a welcome addition to the game. Yeah, I'll probably give it A tier. Yeah, A tier's fair. Oh my god. They got rid of the train yard and they made Landslide. Do you guys remember that? I don't know why this is a marked location. You just always pass by it. It's super boring. I'm not a big fan of fighting here. The loot here is terrible. You should not drop here. Landslide is gonna slide right into D tier, my guy. Terrible replacement. D tier for me. Staging on the other hand is like a mini Countdown. Yeah, staging is like a one-sided Countdown with like the train tracks around it, which is really cool. So you can fight on the train tracks, you can fight on you can fight in the staging area. I don't love landing here. It's definitely a good place to rotate through. So I'd probably have to put this in like C+ tier. Nothing too crazy cool about that. We'll talk about Harvester real quick. Let's get this bad boy out of the way, yeah? Harvester is a great addition. I do really like Harvester. Its one downside is that it's very bulky on the top. So running characters like Gibby or Bangalore just feel like kind of useless in Harvester. But I do like Harvester. I love the the way that it's designed. I love like the sneaky tunneling. I enjoy it. I think it's a very unique and much better than the previous place, Fuel Depot. Some people do really hate Harvester, but it's honestly a solid POI for getting through stuff. I'd probably give it B+. I think B+ is fair. Let's talk about Survey Camp first. What's there to say about Survey Camp? Nothing really unique about it. It's just those very generic Hammond buildings with like a couple trucks in between. I don't love it. I don't get why it's a named POI. I'm gonna give it D. This is another D tier spot. Like I get why people land here in ranked and stuff because it does have decent loot and it's a good rotation spot, but there's so many other better spots that you can play in pubs and in ranked. Yeah. D tier. Climatizer, on the other hand, is a solid replacement for Refinery. This is such a cool spot. The two central buildings are really cool. The two main buildings that have a gondola across are amazing. I know there's another part of the map that replaced Soaring Factory that has a gondola, but I think this gondola is superior because it comes back a lot quicker. I think this is an awesome addition. S tier. Climatizer's S tier because it's so much better than Refinery. I'm going to talk about these as one POI because nobody really distinctly talks about Fragment West and Fragment East. Fragment West and East are both really popular spots. They are the hottest spot. This particular building here and this particular building back here are very contested for some reason, even though they don't have that much loot. This is just the most central part of the map, so you're always going to fight here. Everybody in their mother lands here in pubs, which is really frustrating and kind of annoying. Like, I don't like that everyone lands here because it's like, it makes all the other POIs super boring because nobody lands there. Don't get me wrong, like landing here and getting like a 10 kills on drop is like super fun, but that doesn't happen every time. Besides that, as an actual design, I do like what they did to Capital City with making that big lava bridge. It is a little bit harder to fight throughout it, but it's such a big over centralized place. Like, I feels like there needs to be like a distinct cut through these so people aren't sniping you from this building across or from this building over here. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone can see each other. I would put it in like low A tier, like A-. So I think low A tier is fair for this. So Lava Siphon is Climatizer's big brother, but I don't like it as much. First of all, I got rid of the best drop spot in World's Edge, which is Sorting Factory, and I will always be mad at them for taking away my Sorting Factory. Like, this could have been what Fragment got replaced into, you know? I do like that you have access to the back railway. I do love this main building here. I think it's an awesome place to fight, but this central building over here is a little bit annoying to reach because you could technically walk, but it's like an open area. Like, you're gonna die if you don't take the gondola across. I do find these buildings to be kind of a bit boring to fight in as well. Overall, it's just a big downgrade to Sorting Factory, but it's still a good POI. Don't get me wrong. I'd probably put it in B tier. I think that Climatizer does this job, but better, if that makes sense. Last, but certainly not least, we have a Launch Site. Launch Site is also very similar to Countdown. It's different enough, but worse. Like, don't get me wrong, I really do like this central area. I think it's really cool that it has like these like bridges and stuff. It has multiple Hammond buildings. It's kind of all over the place. Like the loot here's fine. Everything's just fine. I just think that Countdown is better. So I would probably give it like, I don't know, A-. That's just me though. We finally finished World's Edge. So that leads us to the next one. Oh yeah, Olympus is fun. Let's talk about Docks. So Docks is really cool. The outer ring, no one really fights there, so you're not going to find too much fighting going on, but I do like the actual fighting that goes on here, especially like the underground areas. I think Docks is just a solid drop spot overall. I think A tier is fair. Yeah, this map is nuts. I miss Olympus because I think Olympus has some of the best POIs, period, dude. Macro, you forgot about the Rampart Town takeover. Thank you for reminding me about that. Thank you. That's one of the POIs we almost forgot. Real quick, let's just talk about it. So the Rampart Town takeover is really good. I love this location. I love that you can buy yourself a really cool gun. The fighting over here, like in the paintball section, is really solid. Generally just a much better spot than what was previously there. Oh, and I forgot about the Mirage Voyage. We'll talk about that right after this. But yeah, Big Mod, I would give it, I'm gonna give it B+ for Big Mod. Guys, the Mirage Voyage, oh my god, it was so fun to fight here, guys. You have no idea. If you guys never got a chance to truly experience World's Edge's Mirage Voyage, you were missing out on so much, man. The loot was incredible. The zips in and out of it. You can fight in the ship, around the ship, on the bottom of the ship. Do you guys hear that? The angels? S+. Hell yeah, Mirage Voyage is freaking goated. Carrier next. Okay, so Carrier is really fun to fight in. You got the interior areas that have a bunch of like different cover. It's a very long-winded part, but there's a bunch of loot in the front of the ship and the back of the ship. I do think the Carrier is an underrated landing location overall. I think I'd probably give it like a solid B+. There are better spots in Olympus overall, so let's talk about those next. Power Grid. I personally really like Power Grid. I genuinely find fighting here to be really fun. The buildings are really dynamic. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing super duper unique about Power Grid besides the wiring and stuff. So when it comes to like actual design wise, I don't love it. But when it comes to how the fights feel and how it feels relative to the other areas, it's pretty solid. So this one's also, I think, like a solid A- or B+. Okay, we got Rift. Everyone was really hyped about Rift when it first came out, but I feel like now nobody really lands on Rift, you know? It has some really cool fights. In the end game especially, you're gonna end up fighting here a lot. It has enough loot that can support like up to like 3 or 4 teams. I love that you can jump to that portal to get the hell out of there. It's a very, very underrated spot that I wish more people landed on, but I understand why they don't, because you don't get that close quarters type of fights. You get a lot of just poking people from a distance. So I'll be giving the Rifts A tier. A tier for almost perfect, you know? Almost there. Ooh, Oasis. Oasis is honestly a great POI. The 2 buildings are really fun to fight in. The underground is really fun to fight in. It has enough loot to support a bunch of different teams. It's beautiful looking. I love its aesthetic. I love the colors. I'm gonna give Oasis S tier. Definitely a solid S tier, man. Turbine. Oh my god, I hate Turbine. So you're gonna fight here 99% of the time because it's so central and it leads to so many different areas. I hate fighting here. I hate rotating through here. It just feels like third-party central out here. Don't get me wrong, it's designed very well. So I think like C tier for Turbine. I think that's fair. A lot of people really like Energy Depot. Like I feel like very weird sometimes when I talk about it. Energy Depot's pretty cool. Like it is a very cool indoorsy yet outdoorsy vibe to it. It's a very open area, but somehow feels very close quarters with that underground section. Like you can fight on top, you can fight on bottom. It's also very central, so you're gonna find yourself fighting here a lot when you're rotating out of like Rift or Gardens. As a landing spot though, I don't know if I love landing here too much. I think Energy Depot is cool. It's not my favorite. So B tier for Buddy. It's not that great. Gardens. It's time to talk about Gardens. When the map got announced, everybody saw Gardens and saw the pinks and the greens and the yellows and the color, the vibrancy. They were like, this looks so beautiful. Gardens is incredible. Gardens is probably one of the best POIs ever created in Apex history. It is beautiful in terms of design, in terms of color. It's just so dynamic. It's vertical. The buildings are unique looking. Do you guys hear what I'm hearing? Do you guys hear what I'm hearing? S+. The Angels. I love fighting everywhere in this, but I love Gardens. Anyone that hates Gardens is just bad at this game. I said it. You don't want to hear me say it, but I said it. Oh my god, Estates. Estates is the skull town of Olympus. Estates is so beautiful. The orange, the buildings, the way it has like almost a wall ringing around it, dude. I love Estates. And everyone that plays Olympus competitively and then like goes for like trying to get 20 bombs and stuff loves landing here, getting like 15, 20 kills and stuff as a team. Its location is prime. It has great loot. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Back to back. Do you guys hear that? Do you guys hear those angels? S+. Yeah, I said it. Hammond Labs. The actual lab itself is so fun to fight in. It's freaking wild. Look at this. It looks like a PS5. This is the most aggressive central area. So you're going to find yourself dying either in Hammond Labs or on the ramps that go up to that top area. That's like technically an unmarked location, but I consider it to be part of Hammond Labs. This whole area is really fun to fight in. It's a very unique looking thing. The waterfalls are beautiful. I really like Hammond Labs. I think Hammond Labs is pretty sick. I'm going to give it A+. It's a solid POI. Then we got Grow Towers. I don't love Grow Towers. Like the spinny thing is like, it's a cute little gimmick, but like actually fighting on them is not fun. Fighting in general on this whole side of the map is just like not my favorite. Like this is just not a good POI in my opinion. I see what they're trying to go for, but I don't love it. In fact, I'm gonna have to give it C tier. We're talking about Elysium. Okay, and then afterwards we'll talk about hydroponics. I'm surprised it's a marked location. I just consider it to be a part of hydroponics and stuff, but I do like landing here. It's a very unique and very solid like landing spot with really good loot. It's at the edge, but it's good for ranked. So I'm gonna have to give it like A tier. I think Elysium does its job correctly. Hydroponics is clean, dude. Hydroponics has some of the most unique buildings, some really cool fighting on those like domed looking buildings and stuff. It has so much going for it in terms of like the way it's laid out. Green ramps are just beautiful aesthetically. I personally really like hydroponics a lot. I'm gonna give it S tier. I think fighting here is awesome. Bonsai Plaza. Bonsai Plaza is sick, man. The big buildings are awesome. Even the side parts like the garden area. This whole POI has so much going for it, and I understand why it's such a hot drop on the spot, man. It's beautiful. It's fun to find on the top or the bottom or the left or the right on the bridge things. When the zones end here, it's awesome. You can fight like everywhere. It's so cool. Do you guys... Not again. S+. Olympus is just crushing it in the individual POI department, man. Oh, we got solar array. I love solar array. Solar array is a really cool area to fight in. I love that it's connected to that new ship that just landed in like season 9. It's a good centralizing POI. A lot of really cool fights end up happening here. When the end zone happens here, it's really cool. I'm gonna give it S tier. S tier for snipers always spawn in the middle. And then we got orbital cannon, which half of you forgot it even existed. Don't pretend that you remember. Orbital cannon is just in general cool area to fight in, but I just feel like it's because it's at the edge of the map. Nobody really fights here that much, so you don't ever get really cool dynamic fights. When the zone ends here though, it's a lot of fun, and I feel like it truly shines in the end zones because of how its verticality works. But I don't think it's like spectacular at anything, so I think A tier is fair for this one, honestly. That's it for Olympus for season 7. But let's talk about Fight Night real quick. Fight Night is sick. I love it. Like the loot here is incredible. Fighting inside the ring is hilarious. Too bad like there's still some sound issues with it, but besides that, it's aesthetically pleasing. Fighting in the top areas is fun. Fighting around the Fight Night stuff is awesome. I think S tier is solid for this one. Not like blowing my mind S plus, but like S tier is I think fair for Fight Night, man. Okay, so the last new POA that they added was Icarus, which is this long, big freaking ship that is right next to Solar Ray and Bonsai. Fighting in that ship is a ton of fun. And overall, I really think that this made Olympus like a perfect map because now you have so many options in terms of landing. And I love that it's like right across from the blue ship in terms of the map. The design is really cool, man. I'd probably give this like A minus. A minus is pretty solid. It's not my favorite thing to land on, but I do like rotating through it. Yeah. Okay, now we're at the end. We're at the end all be all. Let's start with North Pad. North Pad is cool. I love the trenches. I do like that big tower that you end up fighting in. The prowler nests are always useful in this side of the map. Overall, it's a pretty decent landing spot with a good amount of loot in that main big building and on the 3 like little leaflets that stick out of it. I think A minus is fair for this one. The wall is pretty cool. I do like the buildings outside of it. The interior wall building is also very interesting. In general though, it's not my favorite landing spot. It is kind of an inoptimal location. So besides the actual wall itself, the whole actual layout of it is not too unique. It's like a B tier. I think the wall is like a B tier. I think that's fair. Then we got High Point. Jesus, I forgot that's even a POI. Oh, okay. Let's talk about High Point. It's that one place that has the balloon. Yeah, it's so forgettable. D tier for this area, but it has the balloon. Remember, it has the, oh, get the balloon. Yeah, we get it. Okay, cool. So let's talk about Lightning Rod instead. Jeez. Lightning Rod is a pretty unique looking building. The jump pad things across from it. The fighting here is a little bit dynamic because of the verticality. It's at the edge of the map though, so not many people do land here, but unless it's like the hot spot, I'm gonna give it a B. I think B tier is fair for this one. We got Thunder Watch. I didn't know this was a named location either. Thunder Watch is surprised it's a named location. I do like the building you fight in, but it's like, I don't think about landing here or anything that often. It's a place you land on the jump pad. C tier for Thunder Watch. It's very forgettable. I legit forgot there was even a named location. Next up is Command Center though. Everyone knows Command Center because everyone's obsessed with holes. So the Command Center has that big hole in the top. You fight inside. It's like a cave. It has the huge zip lines. It's pretty sick. It has a lot of good loot. It ends up being a pretty prominent rotation spot as well. I'll give it A tier. Command Center deserves A tier for the hole alone, man. It's pretty sick. Let's do Cascade Falls and then check my, oh my God. Cascade Falls is the one that reminds me the most of like Star Wars in terms of its vibe. Cascade Falls is such a frustrating building layout. Like the way the buildings are made, it's so annoying fighting in them. You always end up rotating through this place. I feel like this is third party central on this map. In terms of how it actually feels, it's cool looking. I'm telling you, it gives me like a Star Wars vibe. I can't explain. I don't love the building layouts. I don't love how people can snipe you from like the high ground and stuff. I'm gonna give it C's here, man. I don't love this area. Okay, Checkpoint. I do like Checkpoint. Checkpoint is such a fun place to fight in. The fact that you can jump off the map basically and then start fighting other people is crazy. Yeah, like the flowers are nice. The colors are really pretty. Fighting here is honestly super dynamic. Honestly, I'd probably have to give it S tier. I think Checkpoint's really awesome. I think fighting here and landing here is good. Ooh, the mill. I like the mill a lot. Fighting here is crazy fun. It is the most unique looking buildings. It has surprisingly a good amount of loot. I think it's one of the more underrated spots on Stone Point overall. So I'd probably have to give the mill like A tier because I think it's underrated. I understand why people don't like it. It's a little bit small. I always got to give mad props to unique layouts. I think when something is a unique design, it just gives them a little bit more like booster points for me. Cenote Cave. Cenote Cave is pretty cool. There's a specific building that has like 2 ramps up it. You know what I'm talking about? Those particular buildings are like awful for me. The other buildings are fine though. The fact that you can fight on top of the rocks and stuff is really cool. The fact that it's like in the water and the colors is really beautiful is a big plus. I think the caves all around it are what really save this part of the map for me. Probably give it a B tier. Barometer. What could I say about Barometer that hasn't already been said? So Barometer is the new Skull Town / Fragment West East of this game. Such a hot spot to fight in. Every single building has its own like crazy amount of fights going on. You can land like 10 whole squads here. Everybody could get loot and you can get a crazy fights. The central area is pretty crazy to fight in. The underground little like trenches area underneath are sick. It's a huge POI, has a ton of loot, a ton of different dynamic ways to fight in. Do you guys hear what I'm hearing? S plus. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Stormcatcher is a vibe. It's like a building in the sky. It's so cool. It's not just a launch pad thing. It's like this whole thing. There's a building in the sky. Like I'm not selling it well enough, but I think it's a really fun place to drop. It's honestly such a hot spot in general, man. People are always fighting over here in Stormcatcher. I'm gonna give it A plus. Stormcatcher definitely deserves the love it deserves. Oh, Antenna. Antenna is super unique. It has a lot going for it in theory. In practice, it's really not my favorite place to fight in. If you drop down, you're like just so screwed. You can't help your teammate. Getting back up is like impossible. It's like a chore. But besides that, I can't hate it. Rotating in and out of it's not the worst thing in the world. And some of the fights here can be pretty epic because you're like jumping up and down and up and down up the zip lines and stuff. It's like a beats here. It had potential to be like the coolest part of the map. It's just not because of the fact there's not enough ways to get up to the main buildings that you want to get into. Launchpad. I actually really like fighting here. It is like Northpad's little brother though, really. They're very similar in layout. The 3 prongs have a good amount of loot. You really end up mostly fighting in that main building though for the most part. And for that reason alone, it's like not that fun of a place to fight. I'm gonna give it B tier. B tier for little brother. Oh my god, we got fish farms. I love fish farms. I think it's sick. I think the buildings are cool. I like the water. The yellow buildings are really fun. I know they're not super unique because a lot of other areas have these same yellow buildings, but fish farms overall layout is sick. It's super dynamic. It's super flat. Many parts of this map are not very flat. They're very vertical. It's a cool balanced POI. I don't think it's like spectacular. B tier. B tier for bass. Bass is a good fish. They probably farm bass out here, you know? Gale Station. What the heck is Gale Station? Oh, this is a POI? So forgettable. Those green buildings are everywhere in this map, so it's like really weird that this gets its own name. It seems like a transitional spot, not like an actual named location. I'm gonna put C tier. C tier for Gale Station, honestly. Oh, Shipfall. Shipfall is so cool, man. It had the potential to be the coolest landing spot, but it's at the edge. If it was more central, it'd be sick. I don't think the ring ends here ever, so like you don't really get experienced like the true verticality that this area of the map has. Overall, like I think Shipfall's cool. I think the buildings on the outside of it are where you actually end up looting most of the time. I'd probably like put like low B tier. It's just hurt by its location being on the edge of the map and stuff. Now, last but certainly not least, let's talk about overall. Which of these maps is the best map overall? You can already probably tell by the fact that I gave Olympus mostly S tiers and A's, a few C's, the worst being like a C, that Olympus in general is clearly my favorite map. So I would say Olympus is the best map in the game, followed by World's Edge. I think World's Edge has earned its stripes, has earned the rep that it has, and I think it works really well for ranked. So I think World's Edge is my second favorite map. Now, in terms of third favorite map, it's actually pretty close between Storm Point and Kings Canyon, but I'm gonna have to give it to Storm Point. Although it still feels like it's in its like infancy right now and needs a little bit of changes, it still has really fun and dynamic POIs that I do want to actually fight on. Versus Kings Canyon, on the other hand, I don't want to play on Kings Canyon 99% of the time. Kings Canyon has amazing spots, but it also has some of the worst spots in the game overall. In order, it would be Olympus is the best, World's Edge, Storm Point barely narrowing out Kings Canyon. And that is all of the landing spots, all of the POIs, all of the named locations, all of the marked locations on every map ever. I have ranked them all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for vibing, and I'll catch you later. Peace.